laugh at life's plot twists and recharge your mindset. Because let's be honest, transformation doesn't have to be boring or involve 75 different types of smoothie.
So grab a drink, smoothies if you must, and join us for the wins, the fails and the awkward bits, because sometimes the biggest breakthroughs start with an inner reboot and occasionally forgetting why you even walked into the room.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good. So we've decided, we picked a topic this week, didn't we?
Yeah, we keep flip-flopping, don't we?
We
Sometimes
do,
we're
yeah.
topic-y, sometimes we're not topic-y.
So this week we decided on conflict, mainly because we've just built a piece of development around conflict. We thought, actually, why not talk about it? Because it's the one thing that everybody gets into. And
whether you realise it or not, because I think we talked about it, didn't we? And then we're like, oh, but actually, like, I avoid conflict like the plague, and I don't feel like I sit in conflict mode, but then realise that I just avoid it. But then we also talked about all of the different ways where it shows up. So there's obviously like, I think it's because when we talk about conflict, people automatically think like extreme,
like arguments,
big arguments,
shouting.
or like massive disagreements, or feeling really aggrieved by something and it becoming a big deal. I don't mean that flippantly, but like a big thing. Whereas actually then when we was talking about it, we actually sat in conflict a lot, but it was very it's not underhand, but like low level conflict, day-to-day conflict.
It's like intrinsic conflict, almost.
Cultural conflict.
Yeah, it's like conflict with yourself as well.
Oh, and internal conflict, yeah. So it's like the conflict that happens in your day-to-day when the cultures perhaps aren't aligned or aren't great, and there's that passive aggressiveness and those differences. Because that's the other thing, it just comes up in differences, doesn't it? Like difference of opinion, different ways of working, all of that stuff. And it doesn't often escalate, but it's there, and therefore...
Do you think that... I feel like that's worse, though. You know, when conflict is present, right, in wherever you are.
You can feel it.
And you can actually almost like physically feel it's like a tension in the air. And you know it's there, and it's almost like you know that nothing's ever going to be done about it. So when you move back into it again, you almost go in with this sense of like you're going to war, but you don't really know what war you're fighting or which side you're on, or what is
happening and what the result, what the result you want is. Because I think the subtle conflict is the hardest.
It's so much worse.
And it builds, I think that's what builds the anxiety. It's what builds mistrust. It's what builds like people to quietly leave organisations, but also to quietly probably stop friendships or relationships because you just sort of navigate away from it rather than...
Do you think that's a choice, like an actually it's just easier to just very gently move away than it is to actually try to resolve it? Do you think we specifically choose to do that, or do you think it's like an intrinsic...
I think it's a fight, flight or freeze thing.
Yeah,
and mine is definitely like, oh, this feels uncomfortable, I'm going to run away. And lots of the times I want to actually physically run away.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit of each. I'm a bit of I can stick my head in the sand ostrich of like, la, 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 la.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Or I can literally just, okay, I'm just going to get the hell out of Dodge because I can't.
I think it depends, obviously it depends what it is, but also I think it's how big is it? And I think when you're in organisations or teams, it can feel too big and too monstrous.
Yeah, to even have, I mean, I've experienced it before where I've thought, actually, even if I try to do something about it, nothing's going to change because it's too much of a beast to take on.
Yeah.
And the ways of working are so entrenched in it and the culture is so entrenched in it that then you feel like as a sample of one, you have no impact at all.
Even if there's more than a sample of one, I think even if there's a number of people, I think it's because it gets exhausting, doesn't it, as well? Like by the time you can actually feel like you might be able to make traction, you're already exhausted of having to show up differently, manage things differently, or onboard a load of stuff that just feels really, really crap. And so I think often probably, unless you're a really fiery person that in the moment, unless it's something that happens in the moment that you can challenge, flight or freeze, I think in those situations are more likely because it's the long game. Whereas if you're in a team or you're in a workplace setting or a personal setting and something's happened in the moment, somebody's challenged it and you're in fight mode, it's dealt with there and then, or it blows up there and then or whatever, Whereas when it's more embedded and more cultural, more silent, that's when I think you lean into either, or I lean into flight or freeze. But even if it blew up in my face, I'd probably still
I definitely run
freeze
away.
and then run.
Yeah, I would too.
Like I hate
Yeah, like,
any
the people,
conflict.
like you're saying about, even if you've got the people in there that are like ready to give it a go and fight it, etc. I've seen that before though, where they've done that, but it's made it so much worse because then it starts to create like aggression and different types of friction, and then people view them as like the pain
The
in the
problem,
arse, the
yeah.
problem. It almost manifests into so many different things if it's not dealt with. But then I guess the conundrum is this: if it's too big to be dealt with
And not obvious. Is that what you mean?
and not
Yeah.
obvious, and then how does it get like that in the first place? Because you kind of want to start as you mean to go on, which is not have any conflict at all. So is it different personality types that create the conflict, or is it because it has to come from somewhere?
God, that's a really good question. And I guess with everything, it's so dependent, isn't it? I guess in the scenarios that I've had, talking workplace stuff, it's where everything sort of, it rumbles along fine. Everything's fine and ticking along. It might not be ideal, but then there's an antagonist or a change or something has rocked the boat. And then you see how people respond to that. Or you've all of a sudden, you need to try and work differently, but you've got those people that are not willing to or
Refusing
don't
to.
want to.
Yeah.
And so therefore you start to get that sort of everyone tiptoeing around each other. I think it comes when people start tiptoeing around people.
We do though, we do it all the time, don't we? You know, when people have already got that kind of self-brand or self-image of like, we might say, oh, that person's just a pain in the arse, you're not going to get
Yeah.
anywhere with them. But we almost accept it. So maybe that's the beast that keeps feeding.
The acceptance.
Is the A, the acceptance of it, B, the flight or freeze version of it, and less of the fighting for it in the right
In the
way.
moment.
Because I think that's the difference, because there's ways to deal with conflict that don't have to be negative or aggressive or any of those things. But I think because we're underpinned by emotion, I think we react rather than respond. And it's the reaction that almost has the negative outcome and keeps feeding into it, which just makes it bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, I think also, like, is it a cultural thing? Is it like, because
That is though. I'm so British. I'm just going to bury my
I'm
head.
fine, I'm fine, everything's fine,
Yeah,
everything's
everything's
wonderful,
fine.
like, la, la, la.
Shut the door, have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, and then come back out and again and go, everything's fine. And maybe it is, but also I think it is I don't know, like what's ingrained into us from our own personal experiences, etc. Challenging people's thoughts or ideas is still, organisations will say they want challenges, but they actually don't. Like they really, really don't in lots of situations unless they culturally are really specifically setting themselves up for that environment.
Yeah.
And I think it's just very out there if you do dare to challenge or you potentially say something that might cause a conflict. So we're even diluting things before we even want to say them in case it creates something or a situation. Like the amount of things personally and at work that are like, no, but I won't say that, I won't do that because it might
Rock the boat.
Yeah, or it might cause somebody to be upset with me. I guess maybe it's like people pleasing as well, but I think it's really, really complex. And I think the easiest conflict to deal with is when it's a really visible,
Like visceral,
specific
it's right there. Yeah.
conflict, like, and then you get mediation in or you solve it somehow because it's like you've got something to work with. I think when it's built
you're right.
into the culture, it's baked into environments and family dynamics and friendship dynamics that probably are really long standing. I think it is those when
They're the worst ones. Though.
they're the worst
Yeah.
ones. Because I think to your point or to your question, it just sort of builds and snowballs and then new people join or things happen. You go, well, this is just like, yeah, we know they're difficult. We know it's not the best way to work, but we just do and we just manage it. And it's the same in family dynamics. Like, yeah, we know that this happens or that happens, but we just blend around it.
It's bad though, isn't it? Because the stuff that we think, like friendships is a really good example. So if you've been friends with somebody for a long time and something happens, but it's almost, it can happen like smack you in the face and be like, hang on a minute, where did that come
Yeah.
from? But then you might get one of that party might think, oh, I'll just leave it, that's okay, or I'll just accept it, but not really understanding the cause of it. And I think that's the problem. Half of it is around putting it out in the open and giving it airtime to actually talk about it,
Yeah.
to be able to say, but where's it come from? So it has to come from somewhere. It doesn't just material.
And I think most of the time it's because it's festering, it's building and it's growing.
It's built for that festering thing is like, what's the root cause of that fester?
Oh yeah, where was the first?
Yeah.
Where did it start?
The very
at?
beginning.
What was the thing? And I was listening to, so one of the podcasts I listened to, they have like, it's a married couple, and they every week have a thing called Beef of the Week. And so literally through the pod, they'd never done this before, and they were like, it's
married to each
actually
other?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they were like, it's made our marriage so much better. It's a they're two comedians. It's made everything so much better because they literally sit down for a comedy podcast, but to be like, oh, what's your beef? And sometimes it'll be something really, really minor, but other times it'll be something really mega. And they have like, sometimes they're like, oh, that rumbles on after the podcast and we have to talk about it. But it's aired because we've aired it via the podcast. And then another one I was listening to, and they was talking about like friendships, the importance of therapy in relationships, including friendships. And I thought that was really interesting because of how much we just don't say.
Actually, that's a really interesting one, because there's marriage counsellors, therapists, etc. But very rarely do you hear somebody, two friends going to therapy. But actually, they're really important relationships. So why do we think that, obviously marriage relationship is super important, but why do we not put the same value on our friendships?
Particularly, so she was coming at it from like when something's changed or there's been a big dynamic shift, or perhaps you've realised, because I think this happens as we grow and as we evolve.
Yeah.
Particularly if we've got like childhood friendships, we see things differently. We see the world differently. We have different opinions, like all of that stuff. And they, on the podcast, the two friends almost had a bit of therapy on the podcast, and it was incredible. And they were basically saying like, they'd both made massive assumptions about what the other person wanted or needed, and the other one wanted or needed something differently. And they just sort of hadn't ever addressed it or talked about it. And they're just going, oh, well, that wasn't quite or why wasn't that person there for me in this moment? And the other person was like, well, they need space with their family right now. And it was just fucking fascinating of how probably conflict is running through even in our most like stable relationships.
Yeah.
But it's just not aired or talked about. And it either blows over and that continues to happen and that's fine. Or I think for some, even probably the best relationships, it eventually builds too much and there's that final cherry on the cake.
Bubbles over and that's it. Yeah. It's a really interesting one, isn't it? I think the friendship one is because you, especially like you said, if it's a childhood friend, you grow in different ways. You can almost grow apart. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I think there's different needs have to be met along that journey. And I think as well, there's something around expectations, because I know that, you know, for example, say you have somebody that's never planned anything, you know, that's just them.
Yeah.
Like they can't plan, they're not good at detail, like they'll just, whatever it might be. But then over time, that other friend might be like, but I need you to step up to the mark now. I need you to start planning. I need you to take a bit of control for certain things.
Yeah, like I can't just do it.
So the expectation has changed. But what's interesting is it never gets approached in that manner. It doesn't get approached in that, look, you know, actually, I need to expect something a bit different off you. And if it doesn't, actually, I don't think the friendship is going to last. What they do is almost they have the transition in their head. Then they get pissy with the other person for not planning. And then they go, well, fuck it. And then it blows up. And it's like, well, you need to plan more. And it's like, I feel like the other person needs to be like, but I've always been this way and you've accepted me that way.
Yeah.
But now you're wanting something completely different. So you're not accepting me for who I am. But that's never talked about.
Yeah.
I find it really fascinating. I think I definitely am that person that has, as I've got older, I have this whole thing of like, fuck it, I can't be asked. Because
I have like this. It's like the teaspoon theory, isn't it? But like in terms of your energy, like I've got so much time and energy to put into people
Because I hate conflict. Like, I literally have spent my entire
me
life.
too.
I'm definitely the appeaser.
And I will people please in the middle of other conflict as well and be like, yep, no, well, and try and keep everything just.
I never want to fall out with anybody. I never want any bad feelings. Like, if there's conflict, I'll be like, well, okay, I'll just let them get on with it. But then always, even if it's to my own detriment, I'm still the person that will go back and be like, oh, it's okay, don't worry. Just to keep the peace. But now...
Or I get nostalgic about friendships that have just fizzled out. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I should go back.
Yeah. Or now I think I'm I'm kind of the same but different, which I know is like an oxymoron, but I still don't deal with conflict. But what I have got to the point is when it gets to that stage, rather than being like, oh, okay, I'll just put up with it, that's fine. I'm like, oh, fuck it, just piss off. I'm not interested.
You just go separate instead.
Yeah, I'll literally just be like, no, I'm done. Thank you very much. We're good. It's okay.
Well, and then also I think that then shows like in terms of whether, because if it's somebody that wants to make effort with the relationship, then they'll be like, something's changed, like what's going on? And then you can explore it. But if not, then I think it also tells if that something else she said, like friendships can run their course.
They can, absolutely can.
Relationships can run their course. Like all of that stuff is true. And I think she was like, it's really important to accept that. And I think as a people pleaser, sometimes we're probably continuing things
that we know should have just been put to bed.
Or we're okay, but just as a much more lower level, like catch up on a coffee every so often.
Do you ever get in those situations where you become aware of that's happened? Because when it comes to then meeting that person, interact with them, you're like, oh God.
What did I plan this in for? Yeah. I don't get that so much now because I guess have ended up being really selective. I think my children are still youngish and life's still really, really busy. And so therefore you sort of, the ones that have fizzled out will have fizzled out or it's just happened. And therefore I've been, I guess, quite conscious about where I spend my time. It's like people who are like, I have got a couple of really good friends who I've met at school mums, not school when I went to school, but like the school where my children go. And I've got a couple of really, really good friends from that. But I have no interest in being at the playground and because in the socialization aspect of the school, because I've always been at work, I've never had time, but also I don't have time to see the people I really want to see. And so I can't extend that wider. Whereas I think other people just need people all of the time. And so therefore in every situation they're in, will always have somebody. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I feel like it's effort as well. Like, where are you injecting your energy? Because also our time is precious. Our energy is precious. So actually you want to make sure that you're honing it in the right places. Yeah. And I think same as you, I literally was that playground mum that would not interact with anybody. And if I could get away with it, I would do a drive-by drop-off and yeet my kid out of the window. So I didn't even have to approach the playground. But I was going to say part of that links to who we are as people as well, because I've got a handful of friends and that's me. I'm happy with that. I haven't got a really wide net or a huge group of friends. And I think for me, there's a couple of things that go with it. One is the time that you have to invest in it and the energy. And also I get anxiety with having to keep up with things. Yeah. If my phone goes off, I immediately have that feeling of oh God, I have to reply. And if I don't reply, then I get stressed about the fact of replying or not replying, or do you leave them on read or unread? But that can cause conflict for the other person. Yeah. And I think, but that's part of my own little inner gremlin of that
conflict with yourself.
Limiting belief. Yeah. If I open it and don't reply, what are they going to think, etc. And it could be for the most mundane reason. I might be going for a pee or whatever, but I just haven't had a chance to reply. That gives me anxiety because I think that could cause conflict because the other person might think, oh, she's ignoring me. Well,
see, it's really interesting. I have the opposite. I'm terrible at replying and will read.
No, but that's my point. So I just don't go near my phone. I'll just leave.
Yeah. So that bit doesn't. I don't get anxious about that,
and then I get anxiety about the fact I've let it build up. So it's just a big ball of anxiety, basically.
Well, I think we all are to some extent. I don't that bit because I read it and I feel bad, but there's nothing I can do about it. The bit in terms of like WhatsApp or like messages is when you're on a group WhatsApp. So my friends largely are all like singular
Individual.
friends. I'm not part of like a big group, but obviously there's times where there's a WhatsApp chat because there's an event or like something like that. The thing I hate most is I then don't post anything on there because I'm like, I don't want to look like a
Are
twat.
you like the silent spy? You read them, but you don't interact with them.
Yes, because I get so in my own head about what I'm going to say. I'm so fearful in my day-to-day life of looking like a twat or saying the wrong thing or pissing some like, and not intentionally pissing somebody off, or like even on family like just any WhatsApp chats. Unless I've got to say I'm terrible, because I get really in my own head of like, oh, if I say something and then they think something of me, and then what if they're all then talking about it and I don't know
So
about
your
it?
fear is that that would cause conflict.
I don't
So
really know if it'll
it's
cause
almost like
conflict. It's
better
just
to
like,
not be in it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's because I'm aware of how, not my, I'm aware of how judgmental people can be, and I hate the thought of like being judged for something I've said.
Yeah.
And normally it's like, I think I'm writing something quite witty or funny, and then I'm like, no. So I delete that and then just don't say anything. Or it's opinion based. I'm terrible at opinion based stuff. So this is where like obviously the marketing and all of those social media and stuff, because I think it's really bold to put things out or to say things like, even if it's literally, there was something like a chat or something going on, and it was about like mental health and meds and supplements and food and all of those, and exercise. And I've really, really benefited over the last 6 months of taken some specific supplements that I hadn't taken, and I don't take some meds now, and I take some supplements instead, and I found it really beneficial. And there was like quite a strong opinion of like supplements and meds shouldn't like be needed type thing. And then I really wanted to put on there, oh, but I've like to show the other side and be like, oh, but I've really benefited. But I just went, because that is where there's a fear that then that will create either some conflict or like a rebuttal. And then I'll always be like, well, I don't know anything about supplements really. I just take them when I feel better.
But that is only your opinion, your experience.
Yeah, I know,
you
but
should
like,
be able to
nah, no.
air it. That's interesting.
So I didn't. But then interestingly, I had a conversation with somebody separately and was talking about it, and they're like, oh, it's really interesting to hear the supplements about you.
See, there you go. So people could have benefited from it.
Yeah, but I just think it's a really, it is my fear of conflict, but I wonder if it would be interesting, or thinking about conflict in terms of if you are more self-confident, because then I think those people probably don't do the flight or freeze, they probably do the fight.
Yeah,
because it's the confidence. I guess even if it's something I felt really passionate about, I think I'd still feel like, oh God, don't do
definitely. I'm the same. I wouldn't get involved in any conflict, even like thinking, if I voice an opinion, could it cause those things like what you're saying? If the answer is possibly, then I'll just be silent. I won't say anything at all. But what's interesting is, because I don't want to get into conflicts, I don't want to have to deal with it. What's interesting is I can help other people navigate conflict really well.
That is interesting.
Even though I won't get involved in it myself. Like sometimes like my girls have had conflict before with like either friends or like even in a workplace conflict. And I'm like, okay, you need to navigate it that way.
Yeah.
So I can definitely support the navigation of conflict because I know the right things to do, but I'm terrible at practicing what I preach because I'm petrified of getting it wrong, because it would be happening to me.
You.
So that's why I go, no, I'm not going to get involved. So it's weird, isn't it? The things that we know that we can do, but we consciously shy away from them. Like it's purposeful. I will make a conscious decision to be like, no, I'm not going to say that, write that, get involved in that. It's definitely a conscious thing.
I think that was the thing I found hardest about being a line manager, is having to say some things that could then either result in conflict or hurt some, like just be really, like I hate the thought of upsetting anybody. Like I really, really hate that. And again, if you end up in conflict, largely there's upset. That's why
There is upset. And do you know what's interesting? Historically, well, not even historically, even now, we've been kind of taught that the way to deal with conflict is to communicate and collaborate and remove the emotion from it, right? Strip it back of all emotion, find what the root cause is, understand the different needs from the different parties, and work through it in that manner. And yes, 9 times out of 10, that is the right way to deal with it. But as a manager, when I was a manager, I dealt with it very, very differently. So if there was something that I knew was going to upset somebody, I would give them that airtime to be like, actually, how's it making you feel? You know,
Well, conflict's emotive.
it is
Like, it's
emotive.
so emotive.
What I found the quickest way as a people manager to deal with it is allow them that
Yeah.
space to get the emotional part of it out and then bring it back to the root cause effect implication, cover all of that stuff, and then kind of forge a path forward. But I think the people that say actually remove emotion immediately from it, it's almost like the impossible task because we are driven from our emotions.
Well, if you don't understand how it's making somebody feel, so this is like, say it's a at work line manager employee to like a peer at work or anything like friends, family. If you don't understand how the situation is making somebody feel or how their argument for something is making them feel, how can you move forward if you've both not had that airtime?
Yeah.
Because we're only in conflict because something has triggered our internal values, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, or inner beliefs,
All
limiting
the
beliefs.
things that make us basically
Yeah,
been put to the
because
challenge.
if it wasn't triggering any of those, then it wouldn't be a conflict because you'd just be, oh, I'm not asked about that. Like, you
It'd be a
think,
process, wouldn't it?
yeah, like the amount of things that happen in our lives that to somebody else could cause a problem or a conflict, but are just like, well, I'm not asked about that. That's fine. But then there will be something that we will be asked about.
So then the conflict comes from the emotional trigger, not from
The thing itself.
which is really interesting. So yeah, that's crazy. Because then if you then apply that to, like, for example, the Thomas Kilmann conflict model is almost talks about those areas, you're wrong, I'm right.
Yeah.
Et cetera. And then
Do you just want to talk through those? So there's like, you're wrong, I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah. You're right, I'm right, I'm right.
Yeah, so you either both win.
Yeah. Says
You both win.
Yeah, lose, win, win.
And then there's also the compromise bit in the middle, which is what you're aiming for.
Yeah.
And I think it's, sorry, what was you saying before while you was talking about
the emotion, like it comes from the emotional point and not the process point. It's not the process that caused the conflict, it's the way somebody feels about the process that is causing the conflict. So if you then tie that in with that Kilmann model, it's like, how do you get to that sweet spot in the middle whilst navigating emotions and the thing itself? Because it has to be, you have to look at both sides of the coin.
Yes.
And I think we probably don't give the emotion side of it enough airtime, space to navigate, explore, understand where it's coming from before we try to tackle the conflict in the first place.
And if you just focus on the conflict, the thing itself, you are not preventing it from happening again in the future. Whereas if you look at the emotion that's coming, so if you take a work example and you're on a big team of people and you all need to achieve something, right? But one party probably doesn't feel heard and the other party is steaming ahead and trying to get their thing done. That causes frustration and conflict. It's not because of the piece of work. It's because probably one of them feels that they are not being valued and not being heard or are not good enough, or there's something that's jarred them. And the other one will be potentially, why aren't they just doing what I need to do? Like, it's obvious that we need to do this thing, because they're in delivery mode. And so if you don't understand where each of those people are coming from and the feelings and what's happening in the moment before you resolve the thing, you also can't, in your resolution, think about how do you stop it happening in the future. So it'll just, when the next project reaches crisis point, the same thing will happen.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the thing or even how they're operating. It's about what that means to somebody.
It's also about the needs. You know, in
Yeah.
terms of, people will often get into conflict because somebody might need detail and somebody might not be detail oriented.
Yeah.
So then it becomes, so next time it's about, okay, how did that make you feel not having the detail? And what do we need to do next time to change it so that that emotional state doesn't get revisited?
Yeah.
And I think that's the bit that we kind of probably don't put enough, we don't spotlight it enough, I don't think, when we deal with conflict. Yeah.
Well, that goes back to everything we talk about, which is like understanding your strengths, knowing how you operate as a team, but also I think we do put, or organisations put some time and energy into how do we operate as a team in our little team, but not necessarily then, okay, but what does this mean for either the wider team or a project team or a bigger team that's then coming together? And I think in like personal lives, you either have those people that are really great at doing this stuff and talking and being really open and really honest, and you have people that aren't. And I think the difficulty happens when you've got one that does and one that doesn't.
It is an absolute minefield, isn't it?
Well, also it goes back to how do you grow flow for a little bit. It goes back to how who you are and how you navigate the world as you grow up, as you change, as you have different experiences, etc. You might then want to deal with things very differently to the people around you because their experiences have been different, and they might still be happy to sort of not bumble along, but just go through the motions and not want to challenge or see things differently. And I think the best one is when you can properly debate and see things differently, but also know that your friendships or your relationships are intact. Do you know, I think that's a really hard thing to achieve. I think there is some really, I have some like incredible friendships where I can debate and challenge, but also know that it doesn't change our friendship.
Yeah, almost it doesn't land negatively. It lands in a really kind of an accepted way. I just think there's that thing of like everybody has their own opinion, and I think the healthiest environment is to be able to do what you said, which is debate it, but also know that you're not impressing your opinion upon somebody. You're just sharing.
You'll never enter that I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah, it's not about saying you have to listen to me, follow me, do the thing, you have to do all of that. I need to change your mind. It's having a healthy environment where you can go, I have an opinion on that and I'd like to share it.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah,
and I don't
definitely.
think like those arenas, I don't think are created or harvested enough, especially in the work environment. And I think when you said earlier about no company, they all say they want challenge, but they really don't. I have seen some organisations that have a really good challenging environment because they do it in that manner. It's set up in that way to say, actually, here's a platform for everybody to be able to share their thoughts and their opinions and challenge in the right way. And it's almost seen as like a really positive exercise, like it's approached in a positive manner.
But it has to be really conscious and it has to be ingrained into everything that organisation does. So I interviewed somewhere once actually where they were very much like, so everything, all documentation, anything people were working on, everything was in an open platform. So it was literally like, if anyone looks at this and thinks they can spot an opportunity or they've got some feedback to share or they want to ask further questions, they can do it because it is literally like they all do it for each other and it's for the greater good.
A lean way of working, actually.
Yeah, they were really lean.
Yeah.
And it was for the greater good. Whereas I think when you go to places and they say, oh yeah, we're like either give us some feedback or challenge, but it's not baked into it, almost then is quite jarring, particularly if it's with people that have worked there for a long time or are really established, or they have like a different motive or end game, and it's not clear what the greater good is, because then you're not moving forward together collectively for the greater good.
Or momentum from it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting. I definitely think there's so much that we've talked about, but I think having that ability to feel safe enough to have the environment where you can talk anything through is probably the starting point of dealing with any type of conflict. I guess this is the moral of the story. Yeah,
definitely. And also coming into those conversations with, I think it's also like, how do you start those, if you've got something to raise or share, or there is something that's bothering you and you want to have that conversation, like you don't want to run away from it, it's then also about how do you position that. And I think I lean on Not that I do these things. But in terms of like wider than conflict, leaning on that curiosity angle is always really, really helpful, because then you can come at it from I would like to understand more about why either you do it this way or why it's like that, or any of those things, from I need to understand more so that then I can process, and so that then I can evaluate my thoughts. And then almost you can come back with I really understood that and heard all of that, and I was just wondering if, or I've had some other thoughts that I'd quite like to share. Take them or leave them, etc. Like you were saying, that like sort of passing your opinion is really helpful.
It's definitely, excuse me, I think historically I've always, like managers of mine have always said to me, like, you're very inquisitive. I am inquisitive because I like to know the
Why? Yeah.
reasoning, the why, etc. And I've actually been in meetings before where I've had to caveat my questioning with, I'm going to positively challenge now, if that's okay, just because I'm inquisitive. And it's to stop people thinking that I'm just being challenging.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, how do I set my stall out to get the information that I need? And actually some challenging is needed in a certain situation.
I think in all
And
situations it's
how do
beneficial.
you, but it's interesting that we almost, I feel, again, it's probably me trying to avoid the conflict by giving it that introduction of, because I'm quite inquisitive, I'm going to positively challenge and ask these questions. It's me trying to go, please don't have any beef with me, because if you do, I'm going to run away.
I think that's really helpful, because also you are managing their expectations as well. So therefore, if they are likely, because the flip side of this is you also have people that are really defensive, or that are really stuck in their ways, or really resistant to change, or really resistant to new ideas, and all of that. Like that, those people exist, and we come across them and we work with them, and they do an incredible job often in the thing that they are doing, but can find it quite hard. I find it hard because it instantly leads me into, well, I'm not good enough, I should have spotted that, I should have done this. Like there's that internal dialogue. And so it helps when somebody positions it like that. For me, it helps me check in with myself and go, okay, this isn't just about me, or this isn't because I've not done a good enough job. It's because somebody else has seen an opportunity that I've missed, or somebody's questioning something that I too in it to understand, or I just haven't seen it from that angle. And it allows, I think, the recipient to also be curious. Whereas if it's not positioned in that way, or it's not come up in conversation that way, I genuinely will instantly go to,
what have I done wrong?
Like, what have I done? And therefore, that's when you get the resistance back.
Well, you've created friction before there's really any conflict.
Yeah, so I don't think that's about you wanting to avoid conflict. I think it's you trying to set it up in a really sensible way.
That's great feedback, because that's not, I'm really glad that that's how you see it. No, genuinely, because I do it to avoid conflict, because I am like chicken shit. I'll be like, no, I'm just going to run out the door. Like,
well, ultimately, we all want to avoid, we don't want to get into conflict.
No,
so
I don't know. Some people quite like a good old
Well, that
fight.
is true. That is very true.
I'm not convinced. I know people that love conflict.
I do too. I don't think that, I think what you're doing is taking all of the insights and information that you know and the knowledge you have to be able to go, I can navigate this without it. I can navigate straight into win-win.
Yeah, mine is like best possible scenario creation is what I'm trying to do. Like how do I get the most out of this and not piss people off, but also get what I need from it? By asking those questions.
I think that is very different to avoiding conflict, in terms of like, that's really, 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 really pissing me off. Somebody's being really awful and I don't agree with it, but I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah,
that's very different.
Yeah.
I think there's like constructive avoiding conflict, because ultimately most people, we don't want to get into that war zone of conflict. But there's also passively stepping around it so that you just don't have to engage in it, and therefore you've lost because you've not fought the fight that you wanted to fight. Yeah,
and you're also walking away with feels that you really don't want to feel.
So I think that's a really positive, and I definitely, that would make my inner beliefs and inner shit a lot easier and a lot better to deal with. And then I think people see it and feel it, and then it grows, and that's how you start to create psychologically safe environments as
I was
well.
thinking to say everything's tied in though, isn't it? All of that whole thing is all about psychological safety. And actually, are we creating the environments where people feel brave enough, creative enough to be able to positively challenge and ask questions and put their in the ring of whatever that might be? I think that is probably the bit underneath all of this. Actually, conflict is either created or it just doesn't exist because people are approaching situations in the right manner.
Yes.
Mm.
Or some people are just dealing with it in a conflict that doesn't ever rise. It just ends up in flight or freeze.
Yeah,
It's very complex.
it is.
It's very, very complex. And for two people that earlier said, I don't really have much to say on conflict.
We had quite a lot to say.
We did have quite a lot to say. Yes. It'd be interesting. I
good.
think lots of these things we talk about, because we're quite similar. So I think over time, it would be really interesting because we see how people deal with conflict that are not similar, but what is happening in their internal monologue.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it'd be an interesting one to revisit.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. I enjoyed that. Conflict, avoid, continue to avoid. No, I'm not going to continue to avoid.
No.
I will, actually. That's a lie. I'll continue to avoid conflict as much as possible.
See you next week.
See you next week.